Mr. Nicola. Kathy Escavage, we submitted a confidential report. It's not in the window. It was sent to the LNC, the confidential list. So you all can read. I won't be commenting anything else, except I do want to assure everybody that contrary to what you may have heard, Mr. Paget is not the highest paid employee, and his salary does not keep climbing with, as you may have read, with every new postcard or Facebook post.
Thank you, Ms. Yanukovych.
It is paid by the postcard.
Well, that could be.
All right. Next agenda item is Historical Preservation Committee report.
Let me pull that out. I have very little to add, except for I just want to draw some attention to the bottom thing that the report will actually pull up. The connection in here is not great. Okay. So I put a piece of historical information in here. And Elpedia, if you guys don't know, I mean, it started in 2004, but it really got going as a serious enterprise in 2017. And at the bottom there is that little blue box that says user statistics. So that's the first time, so I started reporting that at the beginning of 2018. There were, just over 1,800 articles, and nearly 1,200 uploads. As of now, there's 6,193 articles on Elpedia and almost 9,500 uploads. So it's growing as a resource more and more, and I see people refer to it more and more. So I think that the project is a success, and really encourage people to make more use of it, and have state parties upload their documents there. It's a place where they can store their minutes that they never have to worry about it again. And when they switch websites, they don't have to worry about moving all that data over. But I wanted to, as part of this, where Mr. Vukovic had mentioned tech debt and that testing phase, it really struck home with me because we have to do a lot of changes. It's run on MediaWiki software, but their one little change affects other things. We have a parallel server. We have a parallel Elpedia. And before we make any changes on the real one, we run it through a battery of tests on our parallel one that's run on a private server. So that definitely is best practice. And the person who does this is an unsung hero. Doesn't know I'm going to mention him, but he's been volunteering on the committee since 2016. None of you have probably ever heard of him. And he is such a good-hearted guy who does tech work, and that's Ed Kokler out of Maryland. But he's the one who's done, ever since the data cleanup that Bonnie from Vermont did, and she did an incredible job of cleaning up of all the spam. But he's been the one maintaining Elpedia, and hardly anyone in the party even knows about this guy, but he really is a hero volunteer.
Why don't you say his name?
Ed Kokler, Fochler.
All right, any other, I'm back here nursing a baby. Any other questions for historical preservation? Okay, once or twice. All right, well, thank you, Madam Secretary. Our next agenda item is Information Services Committee. Was a report submitted in advance?
Yes.
Fantastic. We do not have a representative of the committee here, do we, right? Mr. Haven is gone.
No,
He just.
he just stepped out, but portions of this will be covered tomorrow during the motion. So we could kind of table it to then. It's going to be, it's going to coincide.
Okay. That's, okay, so,
Because I do think it's important that Mr. Vukovic go through everything and address any questions. So,
do we want to wait for him to come back? Mr. Hammond?
not really.
Anybody, we good?
We're good, we're good.
All right.
Yeah, no one was willing to say it, but you all
So that
agreed.
should answer some questions. Okay, our next agenda item is the budget. Now, let's do a time check.
We're at 4:30, Madam Chair.
4:30, we have 1 hour.
Oh, 1 hour?
Here, what's that?
Till the end of the meeting.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So here's what I'm thinking. I think we need to go for about 45 minutes, see where we're at, and then decide if we're gonna keep going or try to pass this thing.
If the treasurer-
Mr. Hogan.
Yeah, I think the PowerPoint will take about 45 minutes.
Okay.
You can do some Q&A off the PowerPoint, and then what I can do is send people the Excel sheet. Everyone can take a moment to review it tonight and tomorrow morning, and then we'll either be in a position to go down it right away tomorrow or not. But if we stay away from the Excel sheet, we should be able to get most questions answered. tonight.
Sounds good. Okay, well, I'm gonna turn it over to you, Madam Secretary.
Just a comment, for those of you who were at the executive committee meeting on the 28th, if you weren't in LNC, you weren't required to, so no shade. It was going to record in detail. I tend to think we should be able to pass this. And what I want to remind people is, to me, the most important thing about a budget is that there's a plan and that it's balanced. And it's both of those things. If we come into January and discover there's something we need to tweak, that's what, budgets are meant to be amended throughout the year. I know some people don't understand that, perhaps on social media make a big deal out of it. We've actually amended our budget less than any other LNC I've been on, but even if it was more, it's like the policy manual, it's meant to be tweaked to suit our needs. So I would ask everyone not to major on minors. It's a balanced budget. I've been on an LNC that passed, I think it was a $200,000 deficit budget one year. And like, that just has created such a horror in me that if we start to see things aren't meeting our needs, we can tweak it. After listening to the treasurer at the executive committee meeting, I'm confident that if he put a motion right now to pass it, I'd pass it right now. But I understand some people weren't at that meeting and want to hear the presentation. But the executive committee voted 7-0 to recommend it.
Yeah, I told my wife I might be the only person that can get a budget passed unanimously in the entire libertarian.
I'm going to make you a liar.
I know.
Challenge, challenge accepted.
All right, so the secretary has it on the screen. I did add a little bit, one extra page to kind of discuss some of the other questions that came up during the executive committee, so I can try and head them off. Portion of this is Q&A, where I have anticipated some questions that you guys are gonna ask and answered it. So try and let me get through the PowerPoint, and then we'll handle additional questions, and I think I answered most of them as we go through. From a very high level, we have a $1.98 million budget. That seems high based on the fact that we're at 1.1 to 1.2 this year. However, you have to remember that we have 500,000 coming in from convention, and we also have the convention bump that we usually get, with more donations throughout the year. So from a membership standpoint, we're starting with approximately 25% lower membership than 2020. I have the comparison up on the screen. So we have significantly less membership dollars in the budget, way conservative number here. From a donation standpoint, we have basically flat versus 2020, but we have significantly new tools, including Aristotle, which provides a well-screening new CRM potentially, and additional now access drives that did not go on during 2020. And then during convention, or for convention, it is a higher budget than 2020. But again, 2020 was a very different convention with COVID than what we have in 2024. And this budget is actually lower from a convention standpoint than 2022. And since it's a presidential convention, theoretically it will be higher. So I believe this is conservative, but the chair of the convention committee and myself are watching this carefully. And what I have done, as I did last time, and we'll talk about, is I have backloaded this budget again, so that if we have any slips along the way, we can spend less money at the back instead of cutting stuff that we're already doing at the front. So there'll be ways for us to recover if we were to slip as far as it goes. Fundraising expense is down significantly versus 2020. However, it's 131% increase over 2022, which we'll talk about. Outreach and activism is probably the biggest change versus 2020, which is the previous year of the cycle. And that's significant. We'll talk about that. Ballot access, we are planning on spending twice as much in ballot access in 2024 as we spent in 2020. There are multiple reasons for that we'll touch on. Convention I just talked about. Salary is not an apples to apples comparison, so I would not look at that so hard. There were a bunch of contractors before, and they were in different lines, and it's hard to make an apples to apples comparison to 2020. So I didn't spend much time on that. The important part to know is that the staff has been given, the ops director and the chair have been given everything that they asked for in that one. Admin, again, nothing, big changes there. Professional services, this does include outsourcing our accounting and our HR, which are both positive, as we've heard throughout the weekend, positive changes that allow our staff to do more things that help our party grow. So from a high level, revenue includes recent improvements, but not future improvements. So the revenue in this budget is $123,000 a month, which is where we are basically right now. But it doesn't include the projections of the 140 a month that the chair is aiming for. Our revenue is heavily dependent on the convention. Ballot access disadvantage to day one. Again, a clear path to 50 states unless we make improvements, which I know we're going to be talking about. Additional CRM investment, which will be discussed later this weekend, is currently in the budget in July. I will also talk about why that could change, but it's currently in the budget for July. Cash position becomes very tight March through May. One of the things we're doing in this budget that we always do since we've taken over is look at cash position and what is happening from inflow and outflow each month so that we don't run out of cash like happened in the previous LNC. And I'm telling you that we are very tight March through May. So we're gonna have to watch that. The decisions we do make to change this budget, we need to be watching the ins and outs and what month they're gonna come in. And then on top of these numbers that you see, the Excel sheet now, $2,500 added to historical precedent aggravation, both revenue and expenses. It's net neutral to the budget. Next page.
Can you jump to the next slide?
Sorry.
Yep. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this, but again, non-convention revenue is a 33% increase over 2023. So that is, that looks like a stretch goal on paper. We basically have to continue what we've been doing for the last 3 months for the next 12. And I'll talk about why that's reasonable. And that's the fundraising expense is up 131% over 2023. That's why it's reasonable. So basically, we're going to spend more than twice as much money fundraising so that we can bring in 33% more money. Chances are, if we spend 131% more, we'll bring in far more than 33% extra money. So we have some buffer in there. The fundraising expense does include membership cards. It includes fundraising contractor and the current fundraising team. It includes wealth screening software, and it includes mailers. So everything that we've talked about that we've liked this weekend, the budget includes. And that one of the main reasons that we're short on revenue this year is because we weren't spending in fundraising. That's essentially been fixed these last 3 months, and we've seen the results. So this is the reason that we're really going forward. Program budgets, $200,000 for ballot access petitioning, front loaded for the first 7 months of the year, and put in the months where I think we'll need it based on the ballot access schedule. So it should actually be coming out at the right time for the right states. $56,000 for outreach and activism, $12,000 for membership communications, and $25,000 for campaign candidate software, which is backloaded to the back half of the year. So that would be one of the things that could slip if we had a shortfall somewhere. If you go to the next page, salary and related expenses, all current salaries accounted for, multiple new positions created, contractors converted, or jobs expanded and built into the budget, outsourced HR service, and money set aside for executive director flexibility moving forward. All that means is that there is a buffer of dollars where we could at some point decide to bring an executive director, or somebody else could bring an executive director, or we can do something with that money to take over that position. Admin expense includes additional CRM option beginning in July. Conversion to new CRM is included in the quote, so staff would not be responsible to do that work. So this is a more intensive conversion where our staff could stay focused on the business of the party. Does not include any expenses needed if we were to do anything as far as renting the building out. I know there's some confusion when I said that last time. It's not us renting the building. It's if we were to pursue getting income from the building in a rental situation. I did not include any expenses that may or may not be necessary to get the building in shape. I don't know that there are any. I just didn't include any. No other major changes in this category. Professional services expense, $65,000 for legal, $78,000 for accounting, accounts payable, accounts receivable, FEC inputs, and monthly financial package work. $30,000 for third-party FEC filing contractor, $19,500 to maintain city CRM at a workable level. If you go to the next slide, anticipated Q&A. So these are some of the things that I thought might come up, so I just want to touch on that, and then if more stuff comes up, that's great. Is this a conservative budget, aggressive, or just right? Frankly, it's hard to tell. Based on the previous 12 months, it's aggressive. Based on the previous 3 months, I'd say it's just right, or even a little conservative. If we spend even more money and use Aristotle appropriately, it may be super conservative. So I'm feeling pretty good about the 1.98 right now. What do we have to do in order to hit the revenue number? Again, in the original 2023 budget, we had $320,000 set aside for fundraising expense. We spent that, or we're going to spend less than half of that. So we should have spent $160,000 fundraising. That would have allowed us to raise a lot more money, as we talked about earlier. We try and get 4-to-1 return. That would be another $600,000 of fundraising we could have gotten if we had spent that money. We got a 4-to-1 return. So what are we trying to do? We've got a $370,000 budget in 2024, let's agree. We need to find efficient, productive ways to spend it. We need to spend all of it. Then we're gonna hit this number. Can't we just dip into our cash reserves and spend more? Yes, and this budget has us doing that. We are dipping into our cash reserves. That's why we get down to almost no money, and then the convention comes in and flushes us back up, and then we are a net neutral throughout the year. So the point here is we are dipping into the cash reserves with this current budget from a monthly cash flow standpoint. We can't go further unless we have more revenue, which hopefully will be. Is our convention estimate too aggressive? We talked a little bit about this. It is way more aggressive than 2020, but it is still 5% below 2022. So there's a good reason to believe we can hit it. As we get more and more data, Adrian and I will bring it to the table if we need to make any adjustments. Next. Why do we need to spend so much on ballot access versus 2020? Multiple reasons. So I'm not going to get us in any more hot water. I know everyone was all fired up last time. This is the deal. We had a few different things that are happening. We've got a whole bunch of people petitioning at once. We got multiple independent candidates, Green Party, no labels, some new things that weren't happening last time. Petitioning cost is going up. We also had less ballot access coming out of 2020 than we did versus 2016, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of stuff, not blaming anybody. It's more expensive. We were able to get 50 state ballot access last time for 100,000. 200,000 is getting us to 47 states. Make your own conclusions. Ballot access is more expensive this time around. That's why we're spending the money, okay? We have it broken out state by state. It is what it is. It would cost us hundreds of thousands more to get to 50, which we're working on plans to lower that number. What are the 3 states we would have to leave off of ballot access? I don't know. I don't get to make that call. I'm telling you that we can afford 47 based on the current states. The ballot access committee will make the recommendations and the XCOM will make the call. So I haven't chosen 3 states. I'm just telling you that based on the numbers we have right now, we can afford 47. Okay. If we find ways to lower the cost, like we talked about earlier, there's ways that we can do it. Okay. The outreach activism budget is down $429,000 versus 2020. What aren't we spending? A significant amount, obviously. So we're spending $274,000 less in candidate and campaign support, and we're spending $181,000 less in branding. So that is a significant amount of stuff we're spending less. So that's just, it is what it is. We're gonna focus on ballot access and fundraising expense, because that is gonna be more important in 2024, at this point. What is the new CRM? How much is it? When will it be voted on? I believe a motion has already been introduced. Whether that one passes or a different one, the chair has expressed a desire to have this in the budget. After careful considerations, I put a mid-year for cash flow reasons. If we make any changes, we can pull it forward. It's just that for cash flow reasons, we were too late not being able to do it earlier without making other things. Next slide, month to month versus annualized. So this is the last slide. And when I send you guys the budget tonight, it will be broken down month by month, line by line. What I want you to understand is, so why do we do month by month? It's so that we don't have a cash flow shortfall and run out of money. It helps the staff understand how much they should spend, not can spend, which is what we talked about the difference. How much they should spend each month, and guides the LNC on what we should approve, not what we can approve. It is purely a projected, like this is what we should do. Is the monthly budget binding? No, it is not binding at all. The annualized budget is the only item that shows up in the bylaws or the policy manual. I cannot tell us how much to spend each month. I can tell us what happens if we spend too much. And that's what I'm doing with the month budget. What is the process for amending the budget if we're running over? Again, this only has to happen if you're running over the annual number, not the monthly number. We bring amendments forward to the broader LNC if we are going to outspend the annual number by over 10%, or if we want to move funds from one budget line to another. It's a fairly easy process. We've done it a couple times this year. How did it work this past year? Just this budget, monthly budget in general. It worked very well. What we did was we backloaded the budget, which meant the first few months we were only spending like 80 grand, and at the end we were spending over 120 grand. Well, we ended up having lower fundraising, and so what happened is when we had less money coming in, we didn't suddenly have to cut the budget dramatically by hundreds of thousands of dollars from like firing people and stopping projects that we were starting with. We simply didn't spend the extra money that we planned on spending. So we've done that again in this budget, where we have backloaded to a degree, and there will be things that we just won't do if the money doesn't come in. It's the safest way to budget, and that's why we're doing it. So we were able to remove $600,000 from the budget this year without drastic layoffs and spending cuts. All right, so I talked a lot and I talked fast, but what questions do you have, knowing that you'll see the spreadsheet tonight?
Why aren't you also our accountant? I know that was also brought up.
I'm
Can
not
you,
an accountant.
can you give us your job description?
This may well be a ballot access question, but I ran into no labels ballot access people in Rhode Island of all places, and which is an extraordinary jump. They need 40 to 50,000 signatures in Rhode Island, paying $20 an hour. What type of underlying cost structure are you assuming petitioning is going to be in that?
So we have been seeing, and Madam Secretary can jump in here, we have been seeing anywhere between 6 and upwards of 12 or 13 per signature. Is that right? The ones that we've been talking to so far.
Yeah, and that's not for party petitions, that's for ballot access petition. Party petitions can be over $20.
Mr. Malloy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We don't need to discuss that. We have money for the 47, as you said, for the ballot access. We don't, I'm assuming that part of the discussion was already had, but we don't really need to do it anymore if things work out the way that we're hoping, or we can have this conversation at a later
correct.
date, correct?
So, for all 50, it really depends on whether or not we can consistently meet our minimum goal and then jump to our stretch goal throughout the year. If we can do that, and staff has a really good understanding of how to do that, if we can do that, then I have no worries about ballot access.
Yeah, if we were to average the 140 that we've talked about, that'd be 20,000 extra a month. You got kind of a 7-month ballot access season. You got another 140 to work with. It puts us in the ballgame.
Any other questions? Oh, yep, Madam Secretary.
Comment that I haven't gotten the reporting up yet from the executive committee meeting, but I'd like to say it again here for the people who weren't at that meeting. I think Mr. Hadopian agreed. There's multiple reasons why leading up to convention, things get super tight. And one of those is a policy manual amendment that was passed maybe 4 years ago, segregating out convention funds, because what used to happen is LNCs would raid that money. And then when the hotel bill and everything came through, they didn't have it, and they were carrying a balance on that. So the last LNC took out a loan, and there was a huge outcry over the loan. And I think there's a huge misunderstanding as to why there was an outcry, at least for most people, can't speak for everyone. It wasn't that they took a loan. Sometimes you have to do that, businesses have to do that. It was what they took it out for, which seemed to be like pet projects that weren't absolutely necessary. Part of it was also for staff salaries, and absolutely no one that I talked to had a problem with them taking out a loan for necessities. I would encourage us not to be scared if that comes to fruition, but be sure it's not things that aren't necessary to keep us going, or commitments that we already have. It was mentioned before, and I agree with that. I think we should have an open line of credit. So if that's not used, but it's there so that we're not waiting weeks and weeks and weeks for an approval, we're in a situation where we need to pay staff, for instance, So just wanted to make it clear, the anger last time I don't think was about taking a loan. I think that was in a lot of cases, is a responsible thing to do. It's what are you spending it on? Like, you all have credit cards. If you're going out and spending it on something, some luxury, that's bad. But if you have to eat that week and you know you're gonna have more money in a month, yeah, go use your credit card to buy food.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Any other questions?
I had a separate one, I'm sorry.
Yes?
Maybe I'm misunderstanding the policy manual, or maybe it's worded vaguely and I'm just going by custom. We had that if the budget went over by 10%, we'd have to amend it. It was my understanding that it was categories or line items going over by 10%. Okay,
I apologize. It's each individual line item.
okay,
To be amended if it's going to go over.
okay. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't like,
No, you're absolutely right. So that's if you want to increase ballot access, or if we're going to go over in ballot access by more than 10%.
okay.
Come back and amend the budget.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Treasurer, do you have anything else for us right now?
No, I will send out the Excel sheet to everybody. It will have month by month, category by category. If anybody has questions beforehand, get it to me early so I can answer for the group. Otherwise, we'll just answer questions here.
What will be the difference between what you sent us tonight and what you
Is there a difference? Oh,
just then?
The general.
say it once.
Oh,
No, that was in there that time, too.
Yeah, the one I sent you guys, I believe I sent you guys last night, before I showed it on the screen.
you showed it
I
on
have
screen.
not made any changes.
Okay, so it's the same
It's the
thing.
same. Yeah, not everyone's seen it, but it's the same as what you guys saw.
We can, maybe.
From a treasurer's standpoint, would you encourage people to wait till January 1st to purchase their convention packages?
I would actually prefer that people purchase them. I like money in.
That's too much. That's too much, but.
They should use their credit card now.
They're already spending, it's the holiday season.
Go
into debt.
Hey guys, let me take a reading of the room. It is 4:54. We adjourn at 5:30. Do you want to attempt to knock out a couple of things off of tomorrow's agenda? We could probably still get out 10 minutes early. And then you have an hour plus before we have our fundraiser.
I was suggesting doing the two very quick motions, which are 10A and 10C.
So can we not, I'm sorry. Question, Madam Chair. Can we not adopt the budget now if we wanted to, even without the?
There were people who weren't at that meeting, I think we should be able to look at the spreadsheet.
Yeah, let's make sure everybody's looked at the spreadsheet. Is there an appetite to adopt the budget now, or do you want to jump to new business with previous notice continued with the A and C that would go?
I'll make a motion to adopt the budget right now. I'm perfectly comfortable, I've seen the numbers.
Sure, I mean, I've been over it, I'm waking up, dreaming about it. Do we have any discussion on adopting the budget?
Let's adopt the
Oh,
budget.
here we go.
Just for clarity, the XCOM voted 7-0 on this, correct? To recommend this to us?
No, wait.
No, seven.
7-0, that's correct.
Okay.
Madam Secretary?
Because tomorrow is a separate meeting in the session, if after tonight somebody reads that spreadsheet, I intend on voting for the budget, but if someone comes to me tomorrow and says, I read the spreadsheet and I'm having some misgivings, I'll do a motion to reconsider on your behalf if you voted no for matters of conscience. Because I want everyone to have their say, but if there's an appetite to adopt it now, I'd rather just adopt it now, but you can reconsider tomorrow if for some reason something strikes you in the middle of the night, I'll move the reconsideration for you.
All right. Any further discussion on adopting the budget? Okay, if there's no further discussion, we're just gonna go to a roll call vote.
Mr. Benner,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian,
Yes.
Mr. Hayman?
Yep.
I will vote yes. Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Maligan?
Come on.
Pass. I'm kidding.
Mr. Birch?
Yes.
Mr. Rupa?
Yes.
Ms. Best is not here. Mr. Watkins?
Yes.
Ms. Yancey?
yes.
Madam Chair, it is 11-0-0.
Oh, you're buying me a drink.
I'm gonna vote yes.
Well, that was good reading.
This is, one of the least contentious budget meetings, the LNC has probably had in a while.
Wow. I would go on record and say ever.
Objection.
Ever since I've been around.
That's bullshit.
Well, just comment, we have a full discussion ahead of time, and there are no surprises, because I've been surprised, as I'm sure Ms. Harlow's been surprised at times. The point of a meeting like this is to do your homework ahead of time.
Yes, absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. Okay, if there's no objection, I'd like to move to amend the agenda to next address new business with previous notice items 10A followed by 10C.
Second.
Any objection? It takes 2/3. So once, and twice, hearing none, the agenda is amended. Next up, we have 10A, extend special rule of order for these minutes.
Okay, I stuck it in the OneNote and I explained the reasoning for this on the confidential list, because there was some confidential reasons for why, I required it. I normally, for auto approval, minutes have to be out in 30 days of a meeting. Believe it or not, this one probably won't take me as long, but full LNC meetings, minutes, with the way I do them, they take about 40 hours to prepare. I know you might not think that, but they do. Yeah, I see you, Mr. Nalahan. And there's some other obligations that you all are aware of that I have for December. So I moved for one-time special rule of order, giving the secretary an additional 30 days to prepare minutes under the auto approval rule for the December 2023 in-person meeting. So I'll have 60 instead of 30. And just an FYI, that auto approval rule isn't a deadline. My deadline actually is the next in-person meeting, but I like to do the auto approval just to speed things up.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to move for special rule of order, giving the secretary an additional 30 days to prepare minutes under the auto approval rule for the December 2023 in-person meeting. Any objections? Do we need to-
I don't know.
Going once, going twice. Okay, hearing no objection, the motion passes. All right, our next item of business is 10C, appoint Karen Carlos as National Platform Committee second alternate. This was noticed by David.
Yes, I think we're all well aware that our secretary is one of the hardest working people in the party. She spreads herself thin. I mean, I think she's on 60 billion other committees, but she did express interest in being the second alternate to the platform committee. And frankly, as someone that's on that committee, I think it's a damn good idea. I really appreciate her insights and experience on that committee. And the way that this occurs, from my understanding, is she have a voice but not a vote. So she could attend the meetings, but wouldn't have an official vote on them.
And there's zero chance that I would move up to a regular role because Albert B is first alternate and he's an alternate in Virginia. He's eager to be a full member of an LNC member, and I don't think any of our LNC members are going to drop off. So even if one did, Albert B would move up. I used to believe, and I spoke with Mr. Benner about it, there's some items that might come up that I have a historical knowledge of that I would just like to be able to offer those insights to the committee. I have no desire to be a voting member.
Second.
Seconded, Mr. Malden?
Will this take away from your responsibilities on the Convention Oversight Committee?
No.
Damn it.
Okay.
That was a point of order. Any further discussion? Any objection to appointing Karen Harlow as National Platform Committee second alternate? Going once, going twice. Okay, hearing no objection, Karen Harlow is appointed as our National Platform Committee second alternate. Right. That brings us to the close of today's business at 5:01 p.m.
Can we knock out the city motion?
No,
I don't think
move to
that's-
We're gonna move to
It should be 5
adjourn
minutes.
Until, time for tomorrow 9 a.m. Is that what you-
Yes.
Oh, good. I was on camera for that.
Recess for evening, that's technically what it is.
Okay, then that.
There's an adjournment. Okay, well, got confused. We put recess.
I know, that's fine.
All right, there you go. It's like, wait, what? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn the evening. Any objections? Once from twice here, none. We are adjourned at 5:01.
I'll fix that.
We'll see you, Mr. Malcolm, which room
Is
we're
there
in?
enough spice going on?
I believe it's.
Just
this
out there.
One
Out
or
there.
the next one. No, it's gonna, we have to speak, I think it's the next, I have to find out. It's this one or the other one. It'll be, I think it's double-
It's gonna be in the hotel.
This room or a different?
It's at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Let's go.
Is it a Buffalo Wild?
No.
Is the course to Justin Nana still
We
there?
should have done that.
Wait, motion to check on Justin Nana?
Yeah, motion for somebody. Make sure he's alive, please.
I just think it was